Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be giving my first impressions on the AirPods Pro Gen 2. Now, I will say right off the bat, I do have a few problems with these. However, most of the issues I have is just due to my own hearing. And I've said this before, but my ears are stupidly sensitive to bass to the point where basically anything I put on my ears or in my ears are just extremely bassy unless I turn down an EQ. And let me just give you an example. My HG560S, which are stupidly neutral, and if you see a frequency response graph, you'll know what I'm talking about. But these are really, really neutral. But even then, even with very, very neutral headphones where, the bass isn't like overextended or anything, it is just flat. Even with that being said, it is still extremely bassy to my ears to the point where I have to turn it down in an EQ by around 10 decibels. So I honestly think my ears actually might have a problem because I know everybody's ears are sensitive to different things. That's basically a given. However, I think my ears are again overly sensitive to a certain frequency, like lower mid range, or not lower mid range, but lower end to like lower end frequencies. Because again, I don't think it should be that bad. I don't think I should have to turn it down like 10 decibels in order to get it to a comfortable like bass like level. It's like, oh my god, it's just I just hate having to do that. But again, that's just how my ears operate and it just sucks. So I'm honestly probably just gonna get that checked out because again, I don't think my ears should be this sensitive to bass. Like it is pretty bad. But with that being said, just not focusing on like the bass kind of muddying everything. I will say that out of the box, these don't sound amazing, but when you like go into something called headphone accommodations, which basically just tailors like a kind of response more to your hearing, it sounds a lot better. It opens up the sound a little bit more, and there's a lot more clarity, like a lot more clarity than in like a default than in the default state. At least for me, again, because my ears are fucking weird. But yeah, one thing I will say that is really, really, really bad about Apple is that they don't have a custom EQ. Why? I don't get why. And for some reason, some Apple users are trying to justify this by saying, oh, most people don't use. Yeah, but who the fuck cares? It's still really nice for the people that do use a custom EQ, especially a lot of audiophiles, which a lot of audiophiles have an Apple product. So just having a custom EQ is a really nice thing to have. But no, Apple's like, you don't need it. You don't need it. And there's also not even an EQ at all. There's not even like preset EQs for basically all apps like Android, which is a really huge blow and sucks because coming from Android, which Android has, by the way, had this feature for years. So like it just like just having an EQ on Android where it worked on every single app was great. But again, Apple doesn't have it. And they have, I know they have like preset fucking EQs, but they do fucking nothing. It's just extremely nice to have an actual custom EQ, but no, you don't need it. It's so annoying. I hate that shit. Apple just decides arbitrarily what their users want. And for the most part, yeah, it works out. But for the people, especially people like me that really care about listening to music, it fucking sucks not having something that can, you can actually adjust. You can't adjust the frequency response. You can't do any of that. You have to rely on stupid ass presets that only work with Apple Music. And in order to get an actual like custom like EQ, you have to use this inbuilt an inbuilt equalizer into an app if it has it, because most streaming services don't have an EQ, which is also another big problem. Just in general, streaming services, just most of them don't have an EQ. Spotify has one, but it's not that good. At least in my opinion, there should be more like levels. Like there should be like more dB you can increase or decrease. Because right now, even on the lowest bass for me, it is still way too bassy. I think there should be more of like a lower end and a higher end shelf with the EQ right now, because right now it's not great, at least for my ears, as I said. But another thing is just the weird options for like the frequency responses, because for some reason it goes from like about 2.4K hertz, which I would say is like the upper mid range, all the way up to 15K, which is like the upper end of high end. So why? Why is there no option to do like a middle of the road option where it's between 2.4 and 15K? Why does it go all the way up to 15K from 2.4? Again, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Spotify, you really need to just increase and decrease the bottom and top shelves of the EQ, and also just provide more frequency response, like, customizability, because right now it's not great. But again, as I said, most of the problems that I have with the AirPods, which are mainly just due to, again, just the frequency response out of the box and just the bass, is mostly due to my ears. However, with the imaging and soundstage, I think it's a lot better than my old IEMs or wireless earbuds, whatever you want to call them, which were my Galaxy Buds Pro. I think this has a little bit more detail, and it just sounds a little bit wider, which is really, really nice. It doesn't feel like kind of hard left and right like it kind of did on my Galaxy Buds Pro at some points. It actually feels like it kind of surrounds you, the music, and I don't have surround sound on. It just sounds like that out of the box with no surround sound on. Um, One thing I will say is that Apple kind of just tries to push kind of useless features onto some users. Meanwhile, it doesn't provide actual useful features that some people will really want. As I said again, like custom EQ for all apps, it sucks that again there's no custom EQ. I'm still gonna be mad about that. No custom EQ at all for all apps like Android, nothing like that of the sorts. And I know, again, most of that is just due to coming from Android, coming to an Apple from Android is what I mean. Right, coming after an Android device, it's gonna give up some things, and I get that. However, come on, it's not hard to implement a fucking EQ. Really not that hard, especially a custom one. And at the very least, you can fucking provide an EQ, like a preset EQ for all apps instead of just Apple Music. Like, come on, man. It's really not that hard. But what is weird, and what is very, very weird about this is that when I connect my IEMs, like my wired IEMs, are like $20. I didn't really care about, like, getting like super high end IEMs. But when I connect my IEMs to my iPhone, for some reason, the bass is way less than on my AirPods, which is weird because the AirPods don't have that big of a bass increase. So I don't know if it's just the way that Bluetooth interacts with just phones in general. But with my old Android, when I connected the same Apple dongle and the same IEMs to that, it was about the same base level as like my default, Galaxy Buds Pro. So like again, decently bassy, as long as you don't turn it down in an EQ. However, with again an iPhone, when I connected, the IEM, same thing, to my iPhone, it was just way less bassy than on my Android, to the point where if I use that same EQ that I use on my AirPods for the IEMs, it sounds actually pretty thin and sounds pretty nice. So that way, again, I can like actually customize it and not feel like there's still too much bass, which is again weird because my IMs, I think, are not super bassy, but still have a little bit of a bass boost, about almost the same as my AirPods Pro. And yet, when I connect a pretty decently similar sounding IM to my iPhone, it just has way less bass. So again, I don't know if it's just the way that Bluetooth interacts or just the way that AirPods interact with the iPhone in general, but yeah, these are just way more bassy than my IEMs, which are pretty similar in terms of frequency response. So again, it's weird. I don't know why it does that. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't have a whole lot else to say. Again, most of the problems I have, for like the third time, most of the problems I have with these just due to my own ears, due to my own hearing. Again, I don't think the problem is like I'm unable to hear things. I don't have a problem with just hearing things in general. I just have a problem with being overly sensitive to lower end stuff. But yeah, that's basically it. Oh, and also the high end is a lot different than on my Galaxy Buds Pro before I go. Galaxy Buds Pro are a lot more high end focused, when on these are way more relaxed. So that will take some time to get used to, and I did EQ that a little bit up as well in Spotify. However, again, it'll take some time to get used to, but not that big of a deal. And in fact, it's way better for my hearing to not have something like super sharp, like super like loud, high-end stuff in my ears. It's just nice to have something more relaxed. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't know a whole lot else to say, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.